chapter 20, text 20. And we'll begin with Kirtan. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kundra Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kundra Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana 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 Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava 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 Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki Shri Girish Govardhan Hari ki Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Shri Prabhupada ki Shri Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Okay, so this morning we are reading from chapter 20. This chapter chapter 20 is called Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena, and this is text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Prasthanabhimukkopi enam anugraha vilambitah pashyan padma palashaksho na pratashte suhritsatam. So we can all repeat the word by word of the verse. Prasthanabhimukko pi enam anugraha vilambitaha Pashyan Padma Palasaksho Na Pratashte Sushit Satam. Line by line. Prasthana bhimukkopi enam Anugraha vilambitaha Pashyam padma palasaksho Na pratashte sushitsatam. Prasthana bhimukkopi enam Anugraha vilambitaha Pashyan padma palasaksho Na pratashte sushitsatam. Does anyone want to read? Prasthana bhimukkopi enam Anugraha vilambitaha Pashyan padma palasaksho Na pratashte sushitsatam. Okay, so we can read the word by word transliteration. Prasthana, to leave. Abhimukkaha, ready. Api, although. Enam, him, Pritu. Anugraha, by kindness. Vilambitaha, detained. Pashyan, seeing. Padma Palashaksha, the Lord, whose eyes are like the petals of a lotus flower. Na, not. Pratashte, departed. Surit, the well-wisher. Satam, of the devotees. Translation, you can repeat after me. The Lord was just about to leave, but because he was so greatly inclined toward the behavior of King Prithu, he did not depart. Seeing the behavior of Maharaj Prithu with his lotus eyes, he was detained because he is always the well-wisher of his devotees. So that translation and purport is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. So the purport says, here the words Sushit Satam are very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always very inclined toward his devotee and is always thinking of the devotee's well-being. This is not partiality. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is equal to everyone, samahang sarva bhuteshu. But to one who particularly engages in his service, he is very much inclined. In another place, the Lord says that a devotee always exists in his heart, and he also exists always in the heart of the devotee. The special inclination of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pure devotee is not unnatural, nor is it partiality. For example, sometimes a father has several children, but he has special affection for one child who is very much inclined toward him. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10. Teshang satata yuktanang bhajatang priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Those who constantly engage in devotional service of the Lord in love and affection are directly in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sitting as the Supersoul in everyone's heart. The Lord is not far away from the devotee. He is always in everyone's heart, but only the devotee can realize the Lord's presence, and thus he is directly connected, and he takes instruction from the Lord at every moment. Therefore, there is no chance of a devotee's being in error, nor is there any partiality on the part of the Lord for his pure devotees. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paschatya Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchaka Patirupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So thank you all so much for the service, and I pray for all your blessings, so that we can speak something worthy today about this wonderful verse, which is spoken in context of Lord Vishnu appearing to Maharaj Prithu. Maharaj Prithu has previously heeded the advice of Lord Brahma and stopped his attempts to perform 100 horse sacrifices. This was because King Indra was causing a lot of disturbances in order to hinder Maharaj Prithu's progress. And those disturbances were very bad for society in general. So understanding that Indra wasn't going to stop his behavior, Lord Brahma advised Prithu Maharaj to stop the sacrifices rather. So Prithu, he did the right thing, but we said in the previous week that he did the right thing for the Lord, and that was the difference. He did the right thing because he cared about what the Lord would think, and that's very different to when we just do the right thing, right? Which is sort of what society expects of us and what we're brought up to think. Right? But even though it's a very good thing to be moral and to do good things and to be right, but there is a higher principle to that, and that is doing everything for the Lord, because it'll mean something to Him, because thinking about Him will please Him, that because we do it out of love for Him, and that is a fitting reciprocation for Him who always loves us. So it's something like if someone cooks a fabulous meal and invites you, and then they're sort of like, well, I was just cooking anyway, and you just happen to be hungry, and so you can eat now. It's not very well, it's not as emotionally satisfying as someone telling you, please come and have supper, I cooked this for you, and I know it's what you like, and I made this effort just for you, and please come and enjoy it. It's a very big difference in the sentiment there. So goodness is sort of like making the really nice meal but not really doing it for Krishna, doing it because, well, it's the right thing to do. It's supper time. I'll just get these ingredients. It'll turn out right. I put in the effort, and making an effort for the Lord, but doing it with Him in mind, making the things that He likes, that He tells us that He'll accept, and preparing it with love. That makes a difference. So every spiritual personality, every devotee that Srila Prabhupada speaks of in this purport, they're also doing everything with Krishna in mind, and that's why He comes before them. It's this. We carry this analogy about cooking. We carry it forward. You will be more inclined to visit someone or be in the presence of someone if they love you, if they care about you, if they appreciate you. You go where you're wanted. The Supreme Lord does the same. He goes where He's wanted. These are not qualities that we are imposing on Him, because it seems very human-like. But actually Srila Prabhupada explains that kind of thing, anthropomorphism, that's not what Krishna consciousness is. Krishna consciousness is the explanation that we actually have those qualities because He has those qualities. That's the way it works. He has that feeling of wanting to be where He's loved and appreciated, and therefore we have that feeling. we enjoy something more when someone does it for us out of love, and therefore he has that feeling, and therefore we have that feeling. So it is that we are made in his image, with his emotions or with his tendencies, rather than the other way around. So love and emotion, they move us to act, because they move the Supreme Lord to act, to be, to speak. So one of the reasons that we spoke about this as well, one of the reasons that we struggle to accept these tendencies of the Lord is because we don't actually see him as a person. That's one reason. We discussed that quite at length previously. But another reason is because we've become so materialistic in this world that it's even less these days that love moves us as much as being impressed moves us. So we think that if someone has achieved something in the spiritual plane, then God would appear before them. Right? If they've meditated for 2,000 years or 10,000 years, right? Standing on one leg and holding their arms up to the sky like Hiranyakashipu, that should move God to appear before them. Or if they've become such a powerful Vedic scholar that they can recite all the mantras in every perfect meter and with every intonation correct, and deliver classes to thousands of people, that should move him. Or if they're a perfectly renowned sage that's left everything behind, that should move him. He should appear before someone like that, who's given so much charity away in society. We like things like that. But Priti Maharaj is just a king who happened to not do 100th sacrifice. Why did that move God? To not just come before him, but to not want to leave. Because that's what this verse is about. The Lord's not going. He's not he's not passing through. He wants to stay. So we have a strange definition of what is spiritual. It's sort of whatever is impressive to us, and also whatever is a little bit different from what our conventional idea of materialism is. Because things like tarot cards and astrology and seances and dreams, those things are another form of materialism. Because it's different from our perception, then we think that it must be spiritual. Someone levitating is going to impress us more than someone having pure love for the Supreme Lord. Right? Or like we said, the yogi or the learned sage or the renunciant or all these other things. So we need to look at this in a different perspective. We're carrying this motive of a relationship. If we try to accumulate spiritual ability, to accumulate mystic abilities, accumulate Vedic knowledge, perform all this yoga to compel God to appear before us, that's sort of like forcing someone to do something in a relationship, isn't it? That's never considered good behavior. The expectation that if we do something and it'll make God come before us, it's sort of manipulation, right? Like in any relationship. So we can see that none of these behaviors is actually going to work when we're cultivating our relationship with God. We can understand now why only love is actually going to work. Why love is the reason that Priti Maharaj has the Lord in his presence, and again, that the Lord doesn't want to leave. So, spirituality then, the basis of spirituality is love. That's what moves the Lord. The same way we said that we do. This is not hard for us to understand. He says in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, very beautiful verse, Bhaktya to ananyaya shakya aham evang vidho arjuna gyatung drastung cha tatvena pravishtum cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service, What's undivided devotional service? It's love. It's someone doing things for me in love without any division of attention to anything else. Only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am. Can you actually get the highest knowledge of me, which is, of course, the highest knowledge of everything? Standing before you, just as he was standing before Prithu Maharaj, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So if you love him, you can see him. If you love him, you can understand him. Not if you meditate on him. Not if you try to study the Vedas about him. Not if you give away a lot of charity. Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Srila Gaura Hari ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Not if you become a renunciant. Not if you cultivate a huge following or have a lot of people watching you on YouTube. Whatever it is these days that defines a spiritual leader. Anything you can think of. The only thing that moves him is love. That's all. And so if we look at Bhagavad Gita as it is, every verse of Bhagavad Gita has a chapter about devotional service. There are many topics that Krishna has to cover, right? Because Arjuna, he's put into illusion, and in that position he's standing for all of us. We think of everything else but love in order to get God's attention. Right? It can't be that simple. We want it to be complicated. Right? Or we just have all these other inclinations or tendencies. So Krishna says, okay, fine. Let me work it out of your system. He goes through all those parts in the Bhagavad Gita. But in every chapter, he's reminding us that it's about devotional service. That the basis is love. And so we'll actually look through the Bhagavad Gita. The first chapter, of course, Krishna isn't speaking, so there isn't an obvious verse like that there. But in the second chapter, it's actually going to take me a bit longer. Let me just go through it from my summary. 249. Keep all abominable activities far by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Right. Chapter 3. Therefore, Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Chapter 4. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work or conqueror of riches. Chapter 5. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Chapter 6. And of all yogis, the one who, with great faith, always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Chapter 7. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Chapter 8. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Chapter 9. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Chapter 10. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Chapter 11. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Chapter 12. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Chapter 13. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Chapter 14. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Chapter 15. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. Chapter 16. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Chapter 17. The Absolute Truth is the objective of devotional service, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Prita. And, of course, chapter 18, the conclusion, which is very emphatic right up till now. One can understand me as I am, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service, and when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Is it not clear what the Bhagavad Gita is about now? Because people would have us believe that it's about many things other than surrendering to Krishna. It suits the narrative or the agenda that they push. That it's about righteousness or being good. But we just said that being good is not enough to attract the Supreme Lord. It's actually not enough to be considered spiritual. Being good is very much material. It's very much situated on the material plane, and it gets us material results. And that's why Krishna says very clearly in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 9:28, he says that he doesn't actually even want us to accumulate good results. 9:28, sorry. Shubha shubha phalay revang mokshase karma bandhanai sannyasa yoga yuktatma vimukto mam upaishyasi. Right? Shubha shubha, shubha and ashubha. You must be free from bondage to auspicious and inauspicious results. Shubha is auspicious and Ashubha is inauspicious. I don't want you to even have auspicious results. Meaning, essentially, Krishna is saying, I don't want you to even perform things on the level of goodness, righteousness. So how then can the Bhagavad Gita just be about righteousness, be about being good? It may sound suitable to those who have the mindset that if it is simply a dharma shastra, if it's just about doing the right thing, then it will be maybe more appealing to the masses. But it doesn't get you out of this material world. It doesn't free you of material bondage. Krishna wants you to be free of material bondage. So he doesn't want you to do righteous things only and get good results, because that's going to bring you back to this material world. He wants you, clearly he says, to be fixed on me, because that's how you'll get liberated. That's how you will come to me. That's how you will come out of this material world. That is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. There is no other reason that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. People want to take his words away from him. They want to separate him from his words and him from what he means in the Bhagavad Gita. And therefore, this verse is contained in this chapter 9, speaking the most confidential knowledge for us to understand what the scripture is about. Yes, Krishna has explained a lot of parts up to this point, and he'll give us a lot of jnana after this. But he wants you to understand from this most confidential knowledge that the reason I'm speaking Bhagavad Gita is that you can fix your mind on me, so that you can understand me, and that knowledge and that consciousness of me will take you out of this material world. So Bhagavad Gita is very relevant to Srimad Bhagavatam class, because everything that Krishna has spoken about, we've realized by by these verses that we've read is about how to fix our mind on Him, how to understand Him, how to serve Him in devotional service, right? And Srimad Bhagavatam takes up after that, because it's the histories of all the personalities who perfected the principle of knowing Him, serving Him, understanding Him, of bhakti. And one of those persons is Maharaj Prithu. He was able to do this. And so he got this result that Krishna came before him. And didn't just come before him, but stayed with him. So Srila Prabhupada, he makes the point that this is not indicating any partiality on the path of Krishna. And it brings us back to the point that we stated in the beginning. This is Krishna reciprocating with someone who wants him to be there with him. Maharaj Prithu loves the Lord, and we go where we're loved, so Krishna goes where he's loved. Krishna goes where he's wanted. Krishna goes where he's appreciated. That's all. It's as simple as that. So if other persons, the persons who accuse Krishna of partiality, who accuse God of having favorites, right, like the demons do, if they wanted him to come before them and be with them, they just needed to love him. It's as simple as that. Love is free. Doesn't belong to anyone. Love of God is available to everybody. Anyone can love him, particularly because it's the inclination of the soul anyway. But anyone has that ability to love him and therefore have him in their presence. And it just so happens when he comes into the presence of the devotee and stays with the devotee, then wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power and morality. That is my opinion. So the devotee is just attracting the Lord out of love. But when the Lord is attracted, when he comes, every opulence in creation just happens to come with him. A little side effect of that transaction of love. Devotee doesn't do anything to attract those things. They just follow because they follow the Lord. And that's the beauty of that relationship. That the devotee didn't want anything. Right? He didn't want anything from Krishna. Maharaj Prithu didn't want anything from Krishna. And because of that, he got everything along with Krishna. That's a special feature of this relationship. So, Srila Prabhupada says that it's explained in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna states very clearly that if you're always engaged in his service, then he will be there with you. So or someone may argue, if he's already situated in the heart, that's what he promises in this verse, if he's situated in the heart and he's always in the presence of the devotee in this way, why is he specifically staying with Maharaj Prithu within his vision and not leaving? There's no big difference, right, if he's in the heart anyway and he's standing in front of him. So for this we need to understand the different features of the Lord. Right? This is fundamental to our understanding in devotional service. And it's one of the reasons we actually have to start with the basics. So we realize what we attain by devotional service. Right? And the basics state that there's three phases of the absolute truth. There's Brahman, there's Paramatma, and there's Bhagavan. And that the preliminary students of spirituality, they understand God as the all-pervasive, as the formless, as the light, and then their understanding can progress to realizing he has a form within the heart. But even as the form within the heart, you can't have that loving relationship. You have a loving relationship with someone when they're present before you, when you can see them, when you can interact with them, when you can speak to them, when you can have loving relationships with them, when you have pastimes with them. That's the basis of a relationship. Can you do that if that person is situated only in your heart? You can't see them, you can't speak to them, you can't reciprocate with them, right? You can't know them. You can't know them. So therefore, the understanding of Paramatma, the stage of Paramatma, is only an intermediate stage to the full understanding of God. It's better than the stage of Brahman, because you can realize that the Lord has a form. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada explains that for yogis, it's possible, once they have seen that form in the heart, to now want to know more about the Lord. The affection is ignited, right? Maybe it's just even interest and not yet affection. But they have appreciated form. And that's already a huge step further from Brahman realization. That curiosity is aroused, and that can bring them to devotional service. That attraction to that beautiful form of the Lord in the heart. But still, they have to take to devotional service to realize Him fully. Because we've also said many times before that realization is only possible with love. In the same way that only those who love someone and get to spend time with them very intimately know them the best, it's the same with God. It's only when you get to spend time with Him in love that you actually know Him the best. So therefore, those who progress even beyond that Paramatma understanding and realize Him as Bhagavan, full in His opulences, full in His beauty, His form, bliss, knowledge. Only someone who has that experience, the full experience of God, knows God. And being situated on that level of knowing God the best, the highest level of knowledge, that person can then associate with Him. And therefore it's necessary for God to be present outside of Maharaj Prithu, for that reciprocation to happen. For Maharaj Prithu to have that full understanding of Him, and for that understanding to lead to reciprocation that they're both experiencing right now. The Lord experiencing the love of His devotee, and the devotee experiencing the love of the Lord. So it's very necessary for the two of them to be face to face. It's very necessary for us to aspire to have a relationship with God face to face in the spiritual world. That's the importance. And therefore then we understand why that verse that we read, the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, why it says that there has to be Krishna and Arjuna. It's very interesting, that verse. Because if Krishna is there, then there is all of those qualities as well, right? Morality, victory. It's not just morality, by the way. It's extraordinary morality. So it's not just goodness, it's transcendental goodness. But still, for that goodness, for that victory, for that power to be present, that opulence, yatra yogeshwaraha Krishna, yatra partho dhanurdharaha. There has to be both of them. There has to be Yogeshwar Krishna, and there has to be Partha, right? Dhanurdhara, the carrier of the bow and arrow. Why? Because there can be all those wonderful qualities of God, His beauty, His riches, His fame, His strength, His renunciation. But if there is no one to experience it, then what's the point of all His opulences? Someone has to be there to experience it. Otherwise, it's sort of like it doesn't exist. So therefore, Prabhupada says that there must be the infinite God, but there must also be the infinitesimal. There must also be the not God, who will experience God. So although we have our basis in Him, He also has His basis in us, because He's defined by us. And that's why there is God and there is the devotee. And we've also said a few times before that if everybody was God, then equally nobody would be God. There's no meaning actually. So where there is Krishna and where there is a devotee, then there is that experience of Krishna's attractiveness, right? Meaning that Krishna's attractiveness is present because there is someone to experience that attractiveness. And the relationship between the two that defines the two is bhakti, is love. And therefore all three come together, and all three are necessary in spirituality, for spiritual life to exist, to define what spiritual is. And of course, bhakti is Srimati Radharani. She establishes the relationship between the two. His Holiness Dr. Jamaraj gave a very nice example. I like this example. He said that if you have something sweet, I would have thought of something unhealthy. He said dates. Something sweet, okay, dates. And you have the tongue. Where is the experience of the sweetness? The tongue or the date? I also said the tongue. It's actually when the tongue, the date is situated on the tongue. Because otherwise the sweetness is there in the date. But if there's no relationship to the tongue which has the ability to taste the sweetness, the actual tasting is not going to happen. That date is going to sit there by itself, all very nice and sweet. Nobody's ever going to know that it's sweet. And particular date just, it doesn't look sweet. They're very unassuming. Very unassuming. Right? They don't look like an ice cream or something. So, even though the Lord is so sweet, even though He's so incomparably sweet, even though He's all attractive, there's no experience of that attractiveness if there isn't bhakti, if there isn't that relationship between the devotee and the devotee and the object of devotion. So therefore bhakti is so intrinsic to that relationship, right? And therefore we have to have Krishna, we have to have Srimati Radharani, we have to have us, the infinitesimal living entities. And therefore the whole Bhagavad Gita is summed up in those 4 verses that speak about the devotees who come into that relationship of love at the Chatur Shloki. And in Srimad Bhagavatam there's also a Chatur Shloki, right, in the 2nd canto, that also explains about how everything in existence is the Lord and His energies. What is that? The Lord and Srimati Radharani, His superior spiritual energy, and us, the little spiritual energies. That's it. Because everything that exists is actually that. Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and us. That's the sum and substance of existence. So the whole Bhagavad Gita, therefore, it's not now a stretch for us to understand that it is simply about us, the infinitesimal, connecting again to the infinite through devotional service. Because that is actually all that exists. That is all the reality there is. Nothing else matters. And why it is absolutely foolish when anyone tries to reduce the Bhagavad Gita to mysticism, to righteousness, to ordinary morality, to whatever material topic they can think of. It's absolute foolishness. It's actually an insult to the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, which is establishing the most divine connection that there could ever be, the relationship between the infinite and the infinitesimal. Right? That which actually brings everything into existence. The reason for the spiritual world to exist, the reason for this material world to even exist. Because this material world is simply a way for the infinitesimal to connect again back to the infinite. That's the only purpose for the material world. It's not for any other experience that we can have here. Nothing else. Right? And that's why everything else that we do in this material world is so inconsequential. Why it comes to an end. Why it's finished eventually. Right? With the body, even at different stages in life. It's because it doesn't matter. The only thing that does matter, and therefore the only thing that does persist beyond the body, is our attempts to establish again this relationship with the infinite and to eventually attain Him. That is all that matters. And this is what we need to, that is what we need to remind ourselves of repeatedly. Because otherwise, the way people try to present this material world, and they try to present what our goals are, and the way they try to even present Krishna's pure and perfect words, it can distract us. It can mislead us. We must not forget why these literatures are here. Right? The Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's words about devotional service, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the examples about devotional service for us to follow. And our ultimate goal is to dedicate our lives to that. Nothing else matters. Nothing else is important. Right? It is really all about that. Right? People question, there's so many Vedic literatures. Did Srila Prabhupada cherry pick the Bhagavad Gita, and did he cherry pick Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranas and the Upanishads? And Srila Prabhupada gave us exactly what we need for this highest goal. If we actually look through all the other scriptures, just like how we just really skimmed through Bhagavad Gita, but we found devotional service there. If you skim through all the Vedic literatures, you'll also find devotional service there. Because all those literatures were given with this world, which is again a vehicle for devotional service, so it can't be incongruent. Those scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, can't be incongruent with the world. But the problem is that we want to see everything else in the same way that we want to see every other path that Krishna speaks about. Right? And we want to ignore his final instruction, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja. I've told you about everything, but ultimately I want you to give it all up and surrender to me. So there's no cherry picking, because you will still find devotional service in every other scripture in the Vedas. But because we don't have the time to do that, Srila Prabhupada has given us the Bhagavad Gita as it is, he's given us the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he's given us the postgraduate study in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, so that we can understand what that ultimate goal of life is, that even God, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, descended to experience, to understand, to love. We can do that. We don't have to take a separate incarnation that he had to. Right? We can do that directly. Right? We can do that directly if we just accept, if we just wash it out of our minds that it has to be more complicated and more fantastical to our imagination, and more in all these other ways impressive to our silly minds, that it has to be more than just love. It isn't. It is really about love. Let's be convinced of that. And then we'll actually be able to understand these scriptures as they are, and to have Krishna standing before us as he is before Maharaj Prithu, and not wanting to leave. Okay. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Grantarashma Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Are there any comments or questions or corrections? Okay. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.